Hey guys, today we're going to talk about the Movo VSM-7. It's a condenser microphone. It's a pretty inexpensive microphone and readily available on Amazon. They sent it to me to check out, and here's what I found. So while they're not paying me money to review this video, I did get the mic for free, and there will be Amazon affiliate links if you're interested in this mic, or if you want to pick up anything else on Amazon and help support the channel. So the mic comes in a box, very simple box, foam inside, comes with a cable, it comes with a effective shock mount and an effective pop filter. It doesn't come with a hard case or like a wood box like you see with a lot of other mics. And I think that's good because, you don't need that. I think it's a waste of money to produce that stuff. If it's a good mic, you're going to keep it on the stand. You're going to be using it. You don't need a box for it. That's always been my opinion on accessories like that. It's good that they give you basically everything you need. They give you a cable, they give you a shock mount, and they give you that pop filter. And again, this pop filter is very effective. So let's demo this without the pop filter. So right now I'm in the cardioid polar pattern, and occasionally pops will kind of make a blast of air into the capsule. So if I actually blow into it with and without the pop filter, you'll really hear the difference. So it's a small pop filter, it's a good distance away from the microphone capsule, and it creates a very consistent sound. This mic has 3 polar patterns. It has omnidirectional, bidirectional, also known as figure 8, and cardioid polar patterns. It has a low-cut filter and a 10 dB pad. And these aren't at all surprising features. Most condenser microphones have built-in pad or built-in low-cut filters. Right now we're using the low-cut filter for my voice. There's no usable bass in there that I want to keep, but let's just flick that off. And so now the low cut is disengaged, and you're hearing proximity effect and sort of deepening of the voice, more bassiness. To my ears, well, at least in these headphones, it's not as nice. It's not as even. I prefer with the filter on, and it's just seems a little more flatter and better for what I'm used to hearing. Currently on cardioid polar pattern, which is most likely the pattern you'll be using this microphone in 90% of cases. Great for dialogue recording. It picks up sounds in the front and rejects a lot of it from the back, kind of in a heart-shaped, 3-dimensional sort of pickup pattern. There's also bidirectional, which picks up from the front and the back evenly and rejects from the sides. Think of it as like 2 balloons end to end around the microphone. Switch over to bidirectional. It takes 2 or 3 seconds to switch between the different polar patterns. There's a little click, a hiss, and then it comes back in, which is kind of standard, unless it's a mic that has continuous polar pattern selection. There's always kind of a click and stuff. So with the low cut filter off, you're really going to hear a lot of proximity effect when I'm close to the mic. So there's even more bass in my voice, which is kind of a natural feeling to me. If I get even closer, it's so much bass. And further away, and now from the side, so I'm talking to the side and it's rejecting a lot, but there's still some of the bass coming through, but almost all of the highs are eliminated from the side. So now switching over to omnidirectional polar pattern. And the difference here is that it's picking up evenly across all sides, all frequencies. Omnidirectional picks up all sounds, all directions, but it has no proximity effect. So I can be closer or I can be farther away. The bass level kind of stays the same. For my voice, what I like is the cardioid and the low cut engaged. I'm going to reset that now. So the mic sounds fine. It's a pretty decent sounding mic. I used it on several videos and I used it for a live stream, and I didn't have any issues with it at all. Had a few people asking about the mic. They hadn't seen this mic before, interested maybe in the pop filter. But yeah, it worked totally fine. I don't often like condenser mics because they pick up so much detail, a lot of noise. They're so much more sensitive than a dynamic mic that they pick up a lot of unwanted sounds, computer hum or typing or sounds in the other room. I could hear my neighbors in their apartments if I had the gain turned up enough. And so that's why I don't use condenser mics all that often. I mean, I have been using this one, the Fifine 678, I think it was. And I'm using that because it doesn't need a pop filter and it's very convenient. And I mostly use that for Zoom calls and live streaming stuff because it's just one cable in and I can use my audio interface dedicated for recording guitars or whatever else. So one of the downsides of this microphone is that it's not actually very sensitive to sound. So it kind of has a lower volume output than other condenser mics. Most of my condenser mics are more expensive, so it's a little hard to compare them apples to apples. You know, this one is about $125 on Amazon right now. Compare it to the CAD M179, which is also a multi-pattern condenser, also has a low cut and a pad and a shock mount. This mic is about 20 dB louder with the same amount of gain. And that's kind of a big deal. So you're getting less self-noise from the mic and the preamp by having a louder signal directly from the mic. I've used this for live streaming and videos and didn't really have any issues with it. Always had enough gain for my voice at a normal speaking volume, and tonally it kind of works with my voice. All mics require a little bit of different EQ than one another, and even different days you can have different sorts of EQ requirements for your voice. But it's just kind of a neutral, boring sounding mic, but it works. So you see from the B-roll shots that this pop filter is built into the shock mount. You can't use the mic without the shock mount. You can't use the pop filter without the shock mount. And also the way that the shock mount is mounted is directly in front. So a lot of situations like at a desk, you can't always have the mic directly in front of you, like I have here where I'm standing up to record this. And if I was at the desk, I would have to have it coming in from the left or the right or overhead or under the table or something. And to get the mic in a good position where it's not blocking the camera or it's not blocking your hands to type on the keyboard or blocking your screen, you can't really get the pop filter in front of the mic in the correct position. It may be possible to actually detach the pop filter and attach it to a different part of the shock mount, so you can turn the mic 90 degrees in the shock mount and still have the pop filter in the correct position if you were booming in from right to left into the frame. Or I didn't try that. It seemed like if I tried to turn the screw, it was going to strip. And one other thing I should say about this microphone, as far as like technical difficulty I've had with it, is that it seems to be very picky about which microphone cable that I use. So I've had to use my kind of like my higher end cables for this with a quad connection type. So using braided shielding cables or any of the DIY ones that I've made, they were very noisy with this mic. I was getting lots of sort of like sputtering sounds, but with the quad cables, no noise with it. Sounds fine. And to be honest, I didn't try the mic cable that it came with, but I don't expect it to be a very good quality. And some of the reviews that I've seen on the Amazon site were saying that the cable quality was not great. So that's something to keep in mind. Maybe that's just the one that I own here, or it could be the cable. It could be my audio interface, my computer setup. Who really knows? But just something I need to mention. So I do have some acoustic guitar recordings here. Because this is a multi-pattern mic and it has that bidirectional polar pattern, I figured I'd try this out in an MS mode. I used a small diaphragm condenser, which actually has a lot of noise issues. It was picking up a lot of electronic interference, unfortunately, in the first example. In the second example, I'm using a Audio-Technica 3035, which is a medium diaphragm condenser. So that's a condenser with a 3/4 inch capsule. And it, again, it's a much more sensitive mic, so it has almost 15, 20 dB more output level than this mic. But that one's fixed cardioid, so it can't do MS recording unless it's the mid microphone. It's a whole tangent to explain that thing, but basically we're using this microphone as an ambience microphone, along with a cardioid polar pattern mic facing the acoustic guitar. And so this becomes kind of space around the guitar by picking up just reflections, no direct guitar. And we're decoding the signal in Reaper to make that stereo. So there's two examples of that. I've also compared the 3035 to the Movo, and also the CAD M179 to the Movo. All right, so here's the first mid-side example, and we've got a M Audio Pulsar 2, I think it is. It's a small diaphragm condenser on the mid channel, or input 1, and the side channel is the VSM-7 in bidirectional mode. So you can see the waveform is much lower, but that's the direct signal is in the dead spot of the microphone, so we're really just picking up the sound of the room, but also the level could have been recorded a bit louder. So so I'll adjust that as we're demoing this. So without mid-side decoding, it sounds like this. So that's the center mic first, and then here's the side channel only. So here it is decoded to mid-side stereo. This is recorded kind of at my desk, so there's not a lot of ambience here to begin with, but mid-side recording just kind of adds an interesting space around an otherwise mono mic, and it is still 100% mono compatible, which is not always true with other stereo miking techniques. Okay, so that's the first example, and that's the one that has a bit of interference on the first channel. And so this is the Audio-Technica AT3035, a mic that's not available anymore. It was originally about $300, so it is a more expensive microphone than the VSM-7, but it's fixed cardioid. It has a higher output level, and it's got a kind of a weird tone to it that I don't always appreciate. So we're going to listen to the left side first, then the right side, and then decode it into mid-side. And mid-side. So this all works by picking up the front and the back of the microphone capsule, and the back side is polarity inverted, and then those signals are panned left and right. And then with a center mic, a cardioid mic in the center, that creates mono compatibility. And those left and right channels, when you mix it down to mono, it just disappears completely. So it's an interesting way of recording with a kind of a special thing you can only do with bidirectional polar patterns. I don't think this was a particularly good example of it, but the mic did fine in this test. Now we're going to compare two different mics, so the AT3035 and the VSM-7. Up first is the 3035, again on acoustic guitar. And in this case, both mics were set the same. The gain was a little bit lower on the VSM-7. The 3035 to me has kind of a weird tone in some of these notes. Sort of like this hum all the way through it, which isn't really there with the VSM-7. Now we're going to compare the VSM-7 to another multi-pattern condenser microphone, CAD M179. It's a little more expensive. It is kind of a classic for the home studio. So up first is the VSM-7. The difference in gain on the preamp between these two microphones is huge. I've got the preamp at like 25% for the CAD and nearly 100% for the VSM-7, which means that potentially it's picking up more noise from the preamp. Here's same setup, but just different performance. In both of those examples, the mics have the low cut turned on, so you're not hearing a big difference in the bass. There is a tone difference kind of in the mid-range, where most mics are very different from each other, but neither one sounds bad to me. Both of those are workable in a mix. The CAD is maybe a little easier on the recording engineering side of things. Plug that into any preamp and have more than enough gain. In this example, I'm going through the different polar patterns, starting with omnidirectional. And that was with the low cut filter off. And so here it is with the bidirectional polar pattern. That kind of has a nice dark and warm sound to it. You have to keep in mind that the entire back of the microphone is as sensitive as the front of the microphone. Things like headphone bleed can come through really strongly, or anything facing away from the microphone 180 degrees, it's still just as sensitive as what's in front of it. And then I switched it to cardioid polar pattern. So it's got a little more bass than omnidirectional because of the proximity effect. This is pretty close to the guitars. So this was slightly angled down, kind of above the bridge, kind of like right between my arm and the headphones. So if I had a click track too loud in my headphones, you would definitely get that picked up in the bidirectional, not so much with the cardioid. So there you go, guys. That's my review of the Movo VSM-7 condenser microphone. It's not terrible. I think for the price, it's okay. It would be nicer if it had a higher output level and wasn't so picky about cables, but none of those are really serious flaws to me. It still sounds pretty good on my voice, and that's mainly where I would be using it. So there are Amazon affiliate links in the description if you want to buy anything for your home studio and help out the channel at the same time. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Support the Reaper blog through Patreon, and visit reaperblog.net for a lot more tutorials.